Welcome to another episode of Anderson Adri. I'm your host, Maddie.
And I'm Sam. Today we're bringing back a familiar face, our VP of Account Services, Adri Dalpiez.
In our last episode, you saw us interview our creative director, Sarah Cody, who manages all things creative at Anderson.
Last time we talked to Adri in our podcast, you got to hear about her love of account services, and today we will be hearing about her perspective on women in leadership.
So without further ado, welcome, Adri.
Thank you so much. Happy to be back.
Thank you for coming back.
Yeah, thanks for being here. So you kind of know the drill already. We always start off with a quick rapid fire. You ready?
Let's do it.
All right. So what is your go-to girl dinner?
Ooh, so I'm kind of basic and also a toddler. I love dino nuggets and Annie's mac and cheese, the white cheddar, paired with a nice Pinot Noir or a dirty martini, Belvedere, extra dirty, extra blue cheese olives.
Yum. Yep. I love the pairing associated with the dinner.
It can be both. You can do both.
So good. What is your favorite app on your phone?
I would say probably Instagram for all the memes and the dog content. Mm-hmm. But I'm a big reader, and so I use the Libby app through the Phoenix Public Library. So probably those two.
I didn't know that the library had an app.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
I'm still, checking books out.
Yeah.
Support your local library.
Yeah, sans the card catalog.
All right. Are you an early bird or a night owl?
So I think I can be both, but I saw a thing on TikTok the other day that this guy said that he was really great from like 12 to 3 throughout the day, and he called himself a midday peacock. So I've been kind of just rolling with that.
I love that.
That's so cute.
That's a new one.
Yeah.
Okay, early bird, night owl, or peacock?
Yeah, midday
peacock.
Yeah.
What is one word to describe your leadership style?
I would say people first. That has a hyphen, so still one word.
I love it.
Okay, well, thank you for answering our rapid fire questions. Let's get into some of those more hard-hitting questions about you. All right, okay, so I know we touched on this last time you were here, but can you give us a little brief overview of who you are and what you do here at Anderson?
Absolutely. So I'm the VP of Account Services here. So I've been here almost 9 years. And my role really functions as sort of the agency's North Star. So making sure that everything is set up from an operations perspective through Ted's vision for the business, and guiding that through sort of all aspects of the agency, in addition to overseeing the account services department, mentorship of our team, and also all of our sort of client relationships, strategic direction for all of our clients, and making sure that from a budgetary perspective, we are doing the right thing by our clients and maintaining really good and solid relationships with them.
Amazing.
I love that. You do it all.
A little bit of everything.
So we kind of hit on it in the rapid fire. As VP of Account Services, how would you describe like your leadership style?
I think for the most part, I really try to lead as we are humans first. So one of the main things that I try to do is make a connection with each of my team members, really learn about them from the onset of their employment, like making sure that I understand how they work, how they like to communicate, and tailor my approach to them. So I would say it's a little bit of the sort of human connection side of things, because once you've made that connection, the ability to provide feedback and to have that taken to heart and know that someone is really vested in you is really crucial.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I love the way that you lead our team with that mentality. I feel like it really helps, our culture, that we're really big on that here at Anderson. And I think, you said you said before, in passing, that's not always what works best for people. But I think here at Anderson, it works best for us that we're all, we have great interpersonal relationships and we all get along pretty well. And it builds kind of that community.
Yeah. And if somebody isn't necessarily a people person, or they're maybe more of a numbers or data person, being able to tailor my communications and my approach for that, it's not a one size fits all. So I think that is a really big component of how I like to lead, is that it is tailored to every individual and what they need. Even the time of day that we have our one-on-ones is tailored to the type of person and what's the best time of day for them to talk, hear feedback, and all of that kind of stuff. So there isn't a cookie cutter style or approach. I really try to work to tailor it to each of my team members.
Awesome. And kind of going off of that, what are some other key traits that you think make a great leader?
Well, I think what's really great about Anderson, and honestly most of the organizations that I have, been part of over my career, is really viewing each individual as a leader in our own right. So it just because I have, 25 years of experience doing this doesn't make me any more or any less of a leader than every single person at an organization. So we're all leaders in our own right. So I think being able to be collaborative, I think being able to speak your mind in a constructive way, having respect for your team members, for your clients, for the work that you're doing, and just being a good colleague and a good contributor. I mean, Sam, you run our social media channels. So you are essentially leading social media strategy and budget, accommodation for each of our clients. Maddie, you have a book of clients that you are working with, that you are leading. So maybe you're not a manager, but in some capacity, your personality, your structure, your role is contributing to leading a particular piece of business or project or whatever the case may be. However, I think there is a difference between a leader and a manager. So I like to think that all of us here are on sort of an even playing ground. Like, even though we have different titles and different, skill sets and, levels of experience, I do think that we're all kind of here together and working together in a productive and thoughtful way for our clients. But there also is the managerial component, and not everyone is fit for that. So I think a good manager is somebody who leads with humility and someone who can be humble, somebody who can find a connection and a personal connection with each individual that they're working with, and be able to, like I said, sort of tailor their style accordingly. A big thing for me is finding a connection and something within each individual who I am managing and working with to really learn how to care about them personally, because when you provide that type of feedback from a professional perspective, the hope is the person on the receiving end knows that I am vested, right? So actually caring about what you did over the weekend, and Sam asking to see photos from your wedding, and Carson, our man behind the camera, wanting to sit down and hear about his first half marathon that he ran. Like, those are things that I genuinely care about. It's not just lip service, but I think having that component coupled with, feedback and knowing that I'm pushing a project, not because I don't like what you did, but because I care about the, ultimate work product. I think those two pieces combined are really, really impactful. I learned a lot about that through Kim Scott. She wrote a book called Radical Candor, and she also has a podcast called Radical Candor, and that's something that I tap into on a regular basis to continue to hone that skill of being able to find the intersection of caring personally and caring professionally, and being able to provide feedback.
I love that. We should add that to our book club.
Yeah.
It's a plug for Kim Scott and Radical Candor.
Yes, we'll add it to our list. So kind of going off, since you have created such like a positive and awesome work environment, so how do you foster that while being in a high pressure field like advertising and account services?
I think that's an interesting question, because I think we sometimes get so in our heads and caught up in the work product and the grind and sort of the heaviness of our workload sometimes. But I think being able to enter a situation or be honest about where you're at, and being humble and showcasing some humility of, I'm struggling today, or this isn't my best day today, or I need a little bit of extra support today, whatever the case may be, being able to be honest about that and taking the vibes, I guess, from the people around you, right? So Maddie, I think, says all the time that, our team is so close that we pick up on each other's energy and on each other's vibes, and we can meet that and match that. But I also think while that's a really important quality, it also helps sort of bring us out of a rut too. So if you're having a bad day, being able to say, Maddie, today I'm struggling, and you kind of have a different elevated energy, like it can really make or break things. Because I mean, at the end of the day, we're doing advertising and marketing, right? So yes, it is a high pressure field, and we've got clients who are relying on us, and budgets to adhere to and project deadlines to accommodate. But at the end of the day, we all want to be vested and care about the product and the output. So if we need to take a break or take a beat or shift or reprioritize, those are things that we can't do unless we're upfront and honest. So I think naturally the Anderson culture is one that is collaborative, one that is positive, but being able to be honest about what you need and get that support from your colleagues is what keeps the train on the tracks.
Absolutely. Because like we are only humans and we have emotions, no matter how good you are at your job, everyone has had an off day. Everyone's been, feeling down in the gutter or whatnot. So being able to like have open communication and feel safe, like to ask questions and come to you like, oh, I don't know how to do this or approach this. It's really helpful. And then I think we do better work for our clients at the end of the day as well.
Absolutely.
So, we are also close here as we discussed. So how do you balance, the empathy and, being there and, we're all friends and friendly with each other versus, you have to also be assertive. You're a manager, you're our leader. So how do you kind of balance that in this field?
I think for me, it's about being as real as possible. So the way that I am here and the way that I carry myself here is who I am outside of this office. So nothing about my personality or nothing about my approach is, not genuine. So I think for me, it's being able to be relatable, be human, have that humility and sort of that humbleness when needed, and also be able to, kind of call us all to the carpet if we need to be, right? If somebody's struggling or isn't, meeting expectations, being able to just level set and say, look, is something going on? Do we need to is it because you don't know how to do something? Is it because you're overloaded with your work? Being able to actually sit down and talk with that person and understand some of the why so that we can adjust accordingly. Like my expectation for the team and for how I lead is never that we're going to be perfect all the time, that everything's always going to be on time and everything's always going to be, on budget and, everything that we ever wanted. Like that's not realistic. Right. But what is realistic is that if we are struggling or if there are roadblocks, I say this all the time to the team, is I don't know what I don't know. And if you are struggling or if you are hitting a roadblock or there is a hurdle that needs to be overcome, without that honesty and without that sort of open line of communication and open dialogue, there's no ability to balance the empathy and assertiveness, because what just comes out is, why isn't this happening? Why isn't that happening? But if we can break down to the studs, what is actually going on, a lot of times it's something that we can easily pivot and adjust. And so I think for me, it's leading by example in a lot of those ways. And everything that I expect from each of you on our team at Anderson is I hold myself to the same standards. So being on time, being respectful, being courteous and collaborative, being honest about what's going on and the struggles. I think that without that sort of realness, there is no ability to balance, assertiveness and authority with empathy.
So we've learned a lot about your leadership style. So was there any kind of pivotal moment or something that happened in your career that kind of led you to the way that you are as a leader?
I think it's a lot of little moments and little things and little nuances that have happened over the last couple of decades. I think it's a lot of little moments. So I've had a lot of jobs. I've had a lot of different types of managers. I mean, this dates back to even like my first job out of, in high school. But I think what I've learned, and oddly enough, every manager or boss or leader that I have had up until Anderson, shout out Ted, has been a woman. So it's something that, you find a connection point with each of those humans. So I think taking the good from each of those individuals and taking some of the things that maybe didn't work for me and adjusting my style moving forward. So I don't know if it was one thing. I think it was a combination of little moments. From my previous, female leaders and bosses, I learned about persistence and fighting for the greater good. I learned how to hold my head high and my shoulders back in a room with men. I mean, I think for the most part, with our clients in particular, they are more male-dominated sort of leadership situations. So being able to kind of go toes when needed and be able to hold my head high, I think those are some of the really good things that I took away from previous managers and leaders. But I also learned some of the things in terms of different styles that didn't work for me. So I took those elements and kind of made them into core values for myself of things that I won't do moving forward. So they aren't necessarily bad or damaging things, but they're things that shaped how I talk, interact, and lead myself.
Amazing.
So, do you have any role models, or specifically female role models, that you could talk a little bit about and how they impacted you in your life?
I think for me, and she'll cry when she sees this, is my mom. She's one of our biggest fans on Facebook. But she is an incredible woman who is one of the kindest, most generous, giving humans that I have ever encountered in my entire life. She would literally give the shirt off of her back to anyone that was in need. But also what's great in terms of her caringness and all of that is that she did take a really big risk in her life, which really shaped our lives. And so I've always really admired her about that. I don't know that I've ever said that to her, but as a woman, to make a drastic change in your life that changes the course of how the rest of your, time on this earth goes is a really big risk. She picked up and moved away from her entire family because she fell in love. And she and I built this incredible life with my stepdad. And it was a risk that, not everyone supported, but she believed in. And so I think that is something that I really take to heart and really value. So shout out to Mary Jo. Additionally, I surround myself with a lot of really amazing female friends. So all through different stages of my life, I have these incredible, gifted and talented and smart females that have become sort of like, my little group and my little safe space, because we're all sort of in similar places in our careers. We all have these things that are going on, the balance of life and family and friends and self and relationships. It's really amazing to have people that you can tap into and relate to and sit down and talk about something in a very sort of pragmatic way of like constructive, direction for, from a career perspective. But then there's also like, we can sit down and have a gossip sesh and vent about all of the things that are happening in our world and our work and who, made us angry and all of those things. I think we really need those people in our lives that can balance both building you up and also, kind of just getting down and dirty and talking about the latest thing that's going on.
I think that's really an important note too, is I think especially females in corporate or just business position, it is good to have that outlet. It is good to have, those female friendships and relationships around you, because it can be a little bit daunting, like we said, if you're in a male dominant field or whatever situation you may be in. And I love that. And I've been slowly building up my female friendships, and it's amazing. It's I have Sam, and I have you as my mentor, and Chelsea and stuff working here has and it's very helpful. It's very also empowering to be with women who are like-minded and who are hard workers, no matter if you're in the same field or not. I feel like it's very nice, and everyone should try to surround themselves with the latter.
Well, and I think there's something to be said about the fact that women are often portrayed as competing with each other and stepping over one another to get to the next stage of their career or their life, and those aren't the people that I want to surround myself with. I don't want to be throwing people off of a ladder to get to where I want to go. I want to be able to celebrate, and I want to have, I want them to be on my shoulders if they need help to get to the next thing or to the next step. And that's something that I really value in the relationships that I have. The same thing goes with some of our clients that I've grown, very close to, and people that I genuinely very much care about and want to see succeed. There's not this note of competition. And speaking of competition, I mean, Sarah is another woman leader here at our agency, and you got to talk to her about her perspective on leadership. But one of the things that's amazing is that she and I are work wives. We're not trying to elbow each other out of the way to get to some other thing at Anderson. We are working together to build sort of the next, phase of Anderson with Ted's support, and building out the sort of next level leaders and our Anderson Advocates peer group. And she and I work together and collaborate, and she's somebody that I admire and look up to so incredibly much. But that's another great example of finding people who are like-minded that are working towards something together versus hey, get out of my way.
And we're so lucky to have 2 women leaders who are in a relationship like that, where you guys are, working together and not like competing or combative. Because I think it really shows within our team and our culture that, we are advancing, and I think we can all feel that. And you being part of the peer group now and everything, I think it really works, and I think it's amazing. So
definitely, because it means so much when you have 2 amazing women leaders that are uplifting not only each other, but then also the whole agency, because it really goes to show.
Yeah,
so that kind of leads into my next question, like how can companies like foster those role models and foster those kinds of relationships?
I think, for every organization, it's probably a little bit different, but we're a small boutique shop, and we have clients that have 1,500 employees, right? So kind of a vast difference. But I think things that are really important is having peer groups, having opportunities to find mentors within your space, finding mentors that are maybe outside of your space, opening up opportunities to have those conversations, opening up opportunities to prioritize those things, because we can get so caught up in the day-to-day and the workload and the work output that I think it does sometimes get in the way of our own personal growth. But if you can find an organization, or if you are an organization that is looking to make shifts, fostering that kind of environment is extremely, extremely important. Finding the time to prioritize one-on-ones, finding the time to prioritize professional development, and telling your team, hey, you can take 10% of your time here, of our 40 hours a week, to watch a webinar, to attend a conference, to, catch up on industry news, whatever the case may be. Without that acceptance, I don't know that it allows for that type of collaboration, or allows for that type of build. So, Sarah and I, for instance, spend a lot of time together sometimes outside of working hours or during working hours, talking about things that we want to do, things that we want to push for and change. And we have Ted's support in that. So there's not like this, no, don't do that. It is what it is, and stay how it always has been. But to have a manager like Ted who is open to those things and gives all of us the time to do that, I think that is the most important thing.
Absolutely. So kind of going into like my next question, what would you say some of those barriers are for organizations or, leaders helping women advance in the industry? And could you talk about, what they could do to overcome those barriers?
Yeah, I think that just having the conversation and recognizing that there are barriers and there are roadblocks for women in a lot of ways.
Like not being scared to say that exists.
Right. And yeah, exactly. And to have somebody that you can talk to about some of those things, and, encouraging them to find other women that they can, work with, being part of other organizations that are focused on women in business, and, encouraging going to conferences, and encouraging to, find mentors in the field. Like Ted is a really big proponent on executive coaching and being able to say like, okay, no, please take the time that you need to do this, and spread your wings and make it something that you're comfortable with. It all just brings value back to the agency, right? Like I'm not coming back and I'm not like, I'm a woman and, screw everyone else that isn't. Like, it's not that. It's more about understanding how we as women can work together, avoid some of that competition, empower each other. And I think that that's something that's been kind of instilled in me here, is that professional growth and finding those outlets is extremely, extremely important, and something that I want to continue to push for our team, and advocate for our team as well.
How do you think the future of leadership will evolve specifically for women in a high stakes field like advertising?
Well, I think that we're in a really interesting time in our culture and in our country. And I bought a sticker for a friend of mine the other day that said, make sure you put on your shoes because there's glass everywhere. So I think women are really starting to make big moves and make big changes, and I don't see that going anywhere. So I think it's going to be about continuing to push. It's going to be continuing to embrace our femininity and be able to embrace that it doesn't have to be a male-dominated world. It can be an equal playing field. And that's sort of my hope, is that it's not a, less than, or you're too emotional, or, I am a childless dog lady. So being able to embrace that and own that and be excited about that, because my value does not come from anything other than who I am, regardless of my age, my gender, how I identify. So I think the revolution is here, and I'm really excited. I mean, talking to two people who I greatly admire and respect, and am proud of and see so much growth in, you're the future. So, to be able to be coming back in 20 years time when you have 20 years under your belt, I hope it's a different conversation. I hope we're not having to talk about being a woman in a leadership role. It's just, it is what it is, and we're all here for that sort of thing.
Yeah, no, we were talking the other day, when you go on Adweek, or you're reading all of the agency and news, whatever, you see all the time, first woman in this position, first woman in that position, there was the first woman of marketing at Peloton, and she revolutionized the industry. It's been really cool to see.
First women coaches in the NFL and in the MLB. This is not going anywhere. And that's what I hope.
Yes, me too. I hope it's just more of a normalized concept versus
because we're people. We're just people.
Yeah. We're just people. All right. So, here at Anderson, we prioritize our professional development a lot. But how do you, as a leader, and how does our leadership team prioritize their professional development? And how do you stay up to date with all the industry trends and news? And do you think that's important?
Absolutely important. I encourage everybody in their one-on-ones. What are we doing? How are we tracking against our growth plans? How are we tracking against our reviews and the things that we set out for our goals? For me personally, I read probably about 15 minutes every day of just industry news. So that's not just marketing and advertising, that's our clients' industries too, because I do want to make sure that I'm not falling behind. I also prioritize 1 to 2 conferences a year for myself, even if they're not something that's specific to account services or specific to advertising or marketing, but being able to find a place to be inspired, to hear how other people have shifted their businesses for the greater good. So those are things that are really important to me, and things that I really want to encourage our team to do as well and to take advantage of. That starts at the top. That's not an Adri and a Sarah directive. That's something that Ted really wants to prioritize, because anytime you're inspired, anytime you're learning something new, you're bringing some sort of value back to the team, and back to the agency. So whether it's for you personally, your work output, or how you are functioning, or a new idea that you brought to the table based on something that you learned at a conference. So that's definitely something that I do. Additionally, talking to my friends, talking to other women who are in positions, and learning about what some of their challenges are, and being aware of some of those things and helping to troubleshoot. That's another way that I kind of stay up to speed on what's happening in our sort of industry and culture. And that's something that I really try to prioritize. Additionally, Ted is a really big proponent on executive coaching, as I mentioned. So that's something that I'm prioritizing and setting a goal for 2025, is to be able to set some new goals for myself and have somebody that really helps push me in that direction, so I can continue to be a better marketer, a better strategist, and a better leader and mentor to all of you.
What advice would you give women that are just starting off in this industry, or maybe more specifically, what advice would you have told younger Adri that was just starting off her career?
Well, the first thing I would have told younger Adri is that you don't need to wear heels to be taken seriously. That wasn't a good look. It was like Bambi learning how to walk. So that's something that I would definitely say. Flats are okay. It doesn't make you less professional.
Flats are okay.
I think in addition to, all joking aside, in addition to what I would say to my younger self is just that it's okay to not know everything. I think that as a young professional, and especially as a young professional who is a woman, there is this sort of need to know all the things and be all the things. But ultimately, you're just starting out. It's okay to not know everything. You don't have to have the answer. There is power in being able to say, hey, I need some help. Hey, I would love to sit down and talk through this a little bit more so I can understand, so that the dots are connecting in your brain. There's no shame in that. And I think that we have all been there at some point.
Right.
And so to be able to have somebody to tell you, like, please ask questions. It's okay to ask questions. We were talking about this yesterday, Maddie, one-on-one. You were like, oh my gosh, like, I just think about how far I've come and how many questions I used to ask you. And like, I know it was like rapid fire, but there was never a time that I was like, no, Maddie, don't ask those questions.
No, you were very nice about all of my silly questions, but it's because you wanted me to learn, and I appreciated that. And I did it because, I wanted to learn stuff.
And I think that, being young and being new into the industry, you have to lead with that. Like, you're not going to come in and know everything. When you come in with a chip on your shoulder and, act as though you are,
the best thing since sliced bread.
Right. It's not going to get you anywhere. And so I think telling my younger self that it's okay to ask questions, and it's okay to not know things. I've been doing this for over 20 years now, and I still ask questions, and I still have to tell a client, like, hey, you know what? That's a great question. Let me get back to you on that. There is power in that. And I think that as females, we're sort of conditioned to feel like we have to know all the things in order to be taken seriously. But I just don't think that that's the case. And I would love to see this sort of next generation come in, have a little bit of that humbleness to say, hey, I studied this, or I know all of these things, but there's so many things that I don't know. And that's what I love about Anderson, is we find people who are curious and find people who want to learn. And when somebody's not learning, they're going to leave. So why would you not lead with that?
So, a lot of people out there probably have experienced imposter syndrome and feeling like, especially women in the industry, it's like, do I know enough? Because we are always very hard on ourselves and think that we have to know everything. And that kind of goes to like, don't be afraid to ask questions. It's okay to not know everything. So for women looking to transition into a leadership role or into a manager role, what is some advice that you would give them to help them advance in their career?
I think a few things are that don't forget where you came from, and don't forget where you started from. And I think, like, literally our one-on-one is a really good example of that yesterday, when you were like, oh my gosh, I just hit my 3-year and look at all the progress that I've made. But not forgetting about how when you first started that you didn't know everything, and that you needed to ask questions, and that you needed to be honest about what you needed in order to continue to grow. I think that's something that's incredibly important. I think about my first job, and I remember I placed, it was a recruitment ad for a CNA in Syracuse. And I placed an ad in the newspaper. Shout out to print. And I remember being so excited and overjoyed that something that I did was in a newspaper. My aunt lived in Syracuse, and I asked her to get the paper and send me the clipping of it. So think about that as like, it was such a small little success, but it was a big success to Adri then. And I don't want to forget those things. I don't want to forget those moments of how all of the steps to get to here have made me who I am. So I would say that, being able to kind of look back and be, retrospective and also introspective, I think is really, really important. So specifically for women that want to move into some sort of leadership role, I think you need to kind of have your proof points, right? Of how have you been a leader outside of just managing people? So what kind of leader have you been in your organization? Have you, pushed for new initiatives? Have you pushed boundaries for, new products or services that you want to offer, or new technologies? Like, what things are you doing to continue to set the tone for what a leader is in the organization? I think that being a baseline, and looking around you and seeing how your colleagues perceive you, and if they see you as a leader, it's a pretty easy transition to, move from leading a project to, leading a team. Again, being able to be humble and understand if that's a skill set that you have. Can you offer the guidance and support that the team needs? Can you find those opportunities to empower your team and be a we, not an I? I think for me, the biggest tip for me to get to the point where I am now is that I have learned that it's not about how your work serves me, or how my work serves me. It's how our collective work serves the greater good. So for me, it's all about like have you seen what kind of contributor you are? Have you seen what kind of contributor your other team members are and how that's pushing towards the greater good, not serving yourself, not serving like, wow, I look so good. Wow, that project won an Addy. Wow, I won, the Woman of Excellence, which all of those things are amazing and incredible. But what does that mean for the greater good? Winning the Women in Excellence, yes, it was an incredible honor, and I am very, very honored to have won that award. And thank you to our team for nominating me. But what did that mean for the agency? What that meant is that there was, PR that was going on about how Anderson is, an advocate for women in leadership. It's brought attention to our projects and all of those kinds of things. So how does something that you are doing contributing to the greater good? Being a leader and being a manager is not about it's not about a self-serving, thing. It is about moving business forward. And I guess that's leadership in general, not just as a woman. I think also not sacrificing who you are. I mentioned it earlier, but I am who I am here at home with my friends. Sure, maybe there's more cocktails, but there's no difference in who I am, and I want that. That's how I want to lead. I want to have that level of transparency because I want you guys to know that I'm a human, and I think that's a really big component too, is not losing yourself in this pursuit for the C-suite or executive leadership position. All of those things will come if you are doing right by your team and you're doing right by the work.
Thank you so much for that. That is the best advice, and I'm definitely going to watch this back in for one day whenever I'm in that position.
Well, thank you so much for being here. This was seriously so empowering and so inspiring, and I'm definitely keeping a lot of these little nuggets that you just gave us and our viewers, and it makes me very grateful to be working at Anderson and working with you and Sarah with incredible role models that you guys are, and really grateful for that.
Very, very grateful for you guys. And do you have any last words for our audience before you head out?
I think just remember it's okay to be really proud of yourself, and it's okay to be excited about your success. And as a woman, I think sometimes we downplay that because we're afraid to be too loud or too noisy. And I think that working in an agency like Anderson, where we're mostly female, we do have some really incredible, powerful, thoughtful, strong men on our team as well, who we admire greatly. And the way that they build us up is really incredible as well. But I think that, just don't forget it's okay to be proud, and it's okay to shout those things. That's something that I'm really working hard on, is being okay to celebrate my success. I don't need to downplay it just because I want to make myself smaller to make someone else bigger.
Beautifully said.
Mic drop.
Well, thank you so much, Adri, for joining us today.
Thank you.
It was such a pleasure to have you on our podcast again.
Proud of you guys.
Thank you so much. And for all things Anderson Ad Break, please follow us on our YouTube channel, and please like, share, and subscribe.
Anderson Ad Break is on all major platforms, so tune in wherever you get your podcasts or check out the video version of each episode on YouTube.
Like and subscribe to stay in the loop. You won't want to miss what's next.